Hello on YouTube, on Twitch, and welcome to another episode of my Singularity Let's Play series. This is Northstar. You're well, by taking care of each other and being kind to yourselves. For those new to my channel, welcome. Return viewers, welcome back. If you haven't before, check out my YouTube channel page. Find previous videos in this series and all my other series organized in playlists from oldest to newest. Some free Darwinian cubes, cool. Research ship devastating strike, able to crack their prey with ease. A mantis ship's punch is comparable to acceleration of a 22 caliber bullet. Acceleration, maybe, but not. Well, actually, it probably already accelerated by the time it makes impact, so it's more like the deceleration, but it's got a lot less mass behind it. Its raptorial appendage strikes so fast the sheer force produces a bubble as hot as the sun's surface. A teeny tiny area, maybe. Alright, let's check the beyond here, and then I can pop over to the Mesozoic Valley. Oh, I never finished this last night. Oh, well. You know, this stream will go more than 15 minutes, probably. Not much, maybe. Just have to remember to come back to this. Sometimes I forget. That's the risk of doing the dark matter stuff, is I'll forget to come back to it. Cool. I just need 6 more Triceratops, and I'll probably be ready to restart this. So, for those wondering, I did get, I've been sharing stuff with my health, so I did get a copy of the actual data from my heart monitor. It's a little more concerning than the doctors were downplaying it to be. I guess it's unsurprising. Few things that were concerned, including a bunch of heart changes and like premature ventricular contractions and stuff when I was on a car ride to visit my grandfather for his birthday when he was really sick, and then on the way back. And then also there was some stuff the night before I visited the ER. A lot of times I pressed the little button on the heart monitor. There seemed to be some stuff that was a little bit weird. On the EKG. So yeah, there's stuff there. It's not nothing. It's not crazy abnormal, but it proves that it wasn't all in my head or something. And of course the doctors are downplaying it. But even to my relatively untrained eye, although I did shadow a cardiologist for a period of time, and I was trying to become a physician, so, and my special masters, we looked at EKGs a little as well. So I do have a little bit of education, understand these. It's not completely untrained. I was an EMT, and sometimes, like, people would, because some people are trying to become paramedics, they'd share a little bit about how the stuff is interpreted because they're training to become paramedics, and you know, sometimes they work with the paramedics, and yeah, there was some stuff that was a little weird on my heart monitor. So the doctor's acting like, oh, it's reassuring. Not reassuring when reassuring would be there's nothing abnormal. Not, oh, well, the stuff that's abnormal, it's not that far off. just, 2 or 3 abnormal beats were starting from the wrong part of the heart here or there. Oh, that's no big deal. And, changes in the morphology of my heart rate over here, my heartbeats over here. Oh, that's nothing. Sure. No, that's not much, maybe, but it's definitely not nothing. All right, well, that's going along. Could keep going in the hope of getting the whole family tail thing. Honestly, it's probably better to restart this and take the upgrades at this point. Alright. And get some more nanobots for the Mesozoic Valley. Simulation 6177 archived. Oh, let's not go right into 6178 without buying upgrades. Entropy efficiency for each life. Dissipation theory. That's quite an upgrade. Genesis Genome 5. Poseidon Protocol 5. Prometo Power 9. There we go. And I think heat accelerator is one of the last entropy things. Then you want to get the +1 nanobot. Grab those. Grab that. Guessing grab that diatap. Not in case it's a requirement for anything else, or because there's stuff that gets stronger with each upgrade you have. I mean, not right now, but eventually I'm gonna run another main simulation that don't immediately reset. I'm not stuff up with that, just lock that in. And it's still going to take a while to finish out the Triceratops there. So let's see. What else? I'm having some constipation issues. Doctor put me in like some laxative stuff. And like I explained the last time this happened like 4 years ago, I had 2 really like impacted bowel movements. And this was actually at the tail end of a lot of heart issues, and I didn't have many heart issues after that was gone, after it was all back to normal. And the doctor to that is like, oh, just take it out the bowel movements gazer. It's like, I'm not arguing for not taking this. I'm explaining that there might be some connection to the heart stuff with the bowel stuff. This doctor's either intentionally ignoring implications like that or not the brightest. I don't know. You don't get the best healthcare under Medicaid in the US, except that's what people who are disabled and unable to work are stuck with. Sometimes they can get Medicare, but then you have to pay premium for it. The government's already cheating me out of SSDI with stupid rules that, like, you can only get up to 4 work credits in a year when you're working, even if you work 2 or 3 jobs or worked, really long weeks with tons of overtime in one job. But at the same time, you get penalized for any gaps in employment. And mind you, you're still paying more into payroll tax for every hour you work. Even if you're working 2 or 3 jobs after you've capped out the work credits, you're still paying more, you're just not getting more work credits. But if there's any gap, say, because you're young and you finish grad school and you're stuck in an economically depressed area far from jobs in your field, and local employers think you're overqualified until you stop listing you have a master's in your resume. Yeah, that'll get you no work credits, but you'll also get no work credits while you're paying into the system while working multiple jobs for long hours. Meanwhile, you're expected to earn work credits while you're in college or grad school, but if you work for the college or grad school, you have no work credits for doing so. It's an unfair, bogus, bullshit system that's designed to find excuses not to help people. So even if I win my Social Security case, I'll only get SSI, not SSDI. So even less money. So the chances of being able to afford, say, Medicare premiums. This is intentional. There was a famous senator who once said, a society can be judged by how it treats those in the dawn of life, like children and infants, the dusk of life, the elderly, and the shadows of life, the ill and the disabled, is what he specifically named. The ill, disabled, and the indigent. I mean the very poor. Yet this has not worked its way at all into the American culture. There are some good people occasionally who end up in the Senate or speaking out, but the US culture has broadly been a plutocracy that just does evil around the world and builds an empire, with the people who speak up against it being the dissidents, the rare, the odd men out, and increasingly silenced. People have the nerve to say, oh, the right side won the Cold War and whatever bull. No. We have a culture that has little hope of improving. Very far. The best, and you know, I don't know. I'm a pessimist about, like, yeah, the Democratic Socialists are gaining some ground and stuff, but the establishment will crack down the censorship and the propaganda until this dies out, I'm sure. Or they'll wait out and block any real progress in a lot of things until people lose their interest. And during the Cold War, the U.S. generated far more mass graves, far more people were murdered at the expense of U.S. taxpayers than were ever killed at the expense of Soviet taxpayers. The U.S. just killed most of its people in the Third World, whereas the Soviet Union killed most of its people within its own borders. Like, most of the people were killed. There were far more people murdered by the U.S. But because the U.S. exported the misery to the Third World and then used censorship so that the domestic masses weren't aware of half the stuff that was going on, somehow that means that the Soviets are more evil? It's ridiculous. No, we were the bad guys in the Cold War. I do recommend reading The Triumph of Evil. Or just read Democracy for the Few by Michael Prenti. It does expose some of the flaws in the U.S. system and talks about this tension, and some people think the Soviet Union, despite its flaws, provided a better system, and those who think you shouldn't compare too much to the Soviet Union because they came from a history of poverty and foreign hostility, and that it's just not at all the right history for doing a socialist project in the West, which is true. But he talks about the different factions in the left and the right, including the neo-Nazis and stuff, and the center. It's a good introduction, a much more honest introduction to U.S. politics than most people get, and covers stuff that due to censorship you often not hear about at all. So that might be a better starting point for some people to read The Triumph of Evil. You should probably read both. You should definitely read both. Excuse me. Yeah, this is going too slow for the Triceratops thing. I'll have to use offline earnings. There's the cryptids thing, but I'm not going to do the exploration because there are no intermediate badges. It just finished the whole thing or not, and I know it's too many Darwinium to actually finish. Although, speaking of Darwinium, grab upgrades, or maybe how much for the next whole module? 200? Oh no, there's a 25 here. Let's grab this. The Epsilon module. And then some of these upgrades are actually quite efficient sometimes. Entropy boost. And a bit crystal boost. I guess I'll hold off on the level of modern. Well, no. Yeah, no, I'll hold off on the level of modern efficiency for now. Some people never learn. They always buy the propaganda that they were fed. As children, the absolute lies about the US, though the politicians are fundamentally good people. Literally, school children were taught that in the 90s. There was, if you read Democracy for the Future surveys, like what school children thought about the government, and majority of school children think that the politicians are fundamentally good people, which is laughable now. But that's what we were teaching kids, even though it was a lie then, it's a lie now. We just straight lie the younger generations. No, the children have to be sheltered. Well, when do you ever disabuse children of those illusions? The answer is never, because history class isn't like high school or a joke, and by that point you're just teaching the kids, oh, you just need to get the A's in history, you don't need to actually care about the stuff that's taught. And it becomes too often memorization of dates rather than actually learning the patterns of history. And intentionally so. Meanwhile, you have stupid shit like the Florida laws saying that you can't have any textual material to suggest that communism is a better system than capitalism taught in schools. Which is, of course, controlling the scope of ideas that young people can be exposed to. They should be able to read those texts even if it's critically. Censorship and the illusion of freedom, though, in the US. And that's all it is. It's only a freaking illusion. It doesn't have to be that way, but it is. Let's know this dark matter thing. It's a dark energy. Started to yawn. It's a dark energy. Dark matter 1. Done. Okay, I can get Red Dwarf 3 going. Still can't do another level with the Great Attractor. Nor can I suspect. Get too far upgrading Jansen. Let's see, I can do this for cheap. Mine this one because it'll get a white dwarf level. Oh. Alright. Sometimes this will enable no upgrades. Did not, but the Euclid Astronomy Telescope. That isn't some... No, not available yet. Focus as I look for the stuff here. This, I think, final chapter has a lot of requirements. It's probably the best one that's ever in this game. I don't know. Could be wrong. Super Earth that orbits a sun-like star far too close for life to exist. What's intriguing is its density. The planet is twice the size of the Earth, but 9 times more massive. Means it's terrestrial, but made of what? Maybe a whole lot of lead? I don't know. Jesus, a little less good than a single click here. It's not going to make very significant progress towards the next level of Great Attractor or anything else. Check out Wasp and the Carina Nebula. There's the Carina. I just need to rank up Wasp 12B. I can do that. All right. That got me some upgrades. Including another upgrade to the local void, so that's actually substantial. If I upgrade the Evil Nebula one more time, I might also get a new object. That's beyond my current capabilities by quite a bit. Alright. Alright, that's probably enough of this. Viewers, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Sorry if it was a little boring. Why am I going to this? I should probably start with a main sim that won't be reset. Sorry if it was a little boring, but clickers can be that way on occasion. Especially if we're not reading off like all the text on the upgrades and stuff. I'm not sure you want to hear me read off stuff about mitochondria or amoebas right now. Maybe some of the more futuristic stuff. I don't know. Later. Like some of the idea stuff. After Singularity, around the time of Singularity or something. After this, I'm probably going to stream some more Hearthstone. Just taking it easy when I do so, trying to keep my stress levels down. The heart monitor stuff, while I was on a car ride, is any indication, and I really do need to be as careful as I can about my stress levels. Undoubtedly, car ride, what was stressful about what was problematic about was stress, since it's not like sitting in a car is much different than sitting in a chair otherwise. I don't get the same issues sitting in a chair usually. But it's also not normal to get heart palpitations anytime you get stressed or have coffee. There was also a bunch of abnormal stuff when I had caffeine. And one day on the heart monitor I had some coffee. I only did that one day because I figured, why? That should be enough to expose stuff. Why would I put my health at risk, my life at risk, just by a bunch of coffee? If I last couple times I had coffee before that, I ended up in the ER. It's like, nope, maybe not a good idea. Fire, cave painting, etc. Need humans, modern humans, where you can advance to Neolithic. There you go, kiln, pottery, irrigation, etc. Bronze Age, Iron Age. Middle Ages, castles, heavy fortifications, age of exploration, caravels, etc., etc. Scientific revolution, biology. Yeah, it's funny. We have so much we could do with science and technology nowadays, but people don't bug the government to, invest more in biology and disease research and stuff like that so we can actually make people's lives better. Cure diseases, because many diseases can be cured. Although I think people have an awareness that the for-profit pharmaceutical industry won't actually produce cures. That we need socialism if we're actually going to cure a lot of diseases. Because it's never going to happen under capitalism, at least not cost effective enough that people are never want to spend that much money. Because you throw money at for-profit pharmaceutical industries and they're just going to find ways to produce forever treatments for diseases that don't actually cure it so they can keep people taking a pill the rest of their lives. And they don't even care if it works that well as long as they can sell it. The amount of money and the extra incentives you have to provide to actually get cures out of a for-profit pharmaceutical industry, it's beyond the pale, which is why we need socialism. We're ever going to actually cure a lot of diseases. Soviet Union never got to the point of being able to cure lots of diseases because it never really got to high economic development level. They were a mid-developed country by the time they collapsed. They started off as a low-developed country, and according to there's rankings of countries' levels of economic development that go low, medium, high, medium, or low, medium, medium, high, high. Soviet Union really made it to medium or medium high by some estimates by the time it collapsed. It started off as a low-developed country, so it, it advanced, it developed, and it actually grew faster in capitalist countries that started off at similar levels of wealth. In fact, it was the second fastest growing economy in terms of long-term GDP per capita growth rates in the world after Japan. So, and before 1972, France instead of Japan, because for a while France was the fastest growing after World War II. But then their economy absolutely ate it after the Bretton Woods global banking system collapsed and their massive currency reserves at the US dollar, because for a while they've been running a trade surplus with America. The US had been buying a lot of like French cars, French wines, and stuff like that, and running a huge trade deficit with France. And France had built up a huge accumulation of US dollars and was using it to fund all these infrastructure projects and social programs and stuff, and suddenly those foreign currency reserves were massively devalued by Nixon arbitrarily in what should have been illegal. And in order to supposedly fight stagflation, basically by making the rest of the world subsidize the US economy to help recover, and this absolutely screwed over the French and made them a very slow growing economy after that, where they've been one of the fastest, and in fact in terms of long-term GDP per capita growth rates, the fastest, because average annual growth rates are not the same thing as average annual GDP per capita growth rates, and definitely not the same thing as long-term. So countries that have a lot of immigration, their economy will grow, but it has to grow to a certain rate just to keep up with the population growth. So that is something advantaged the US, but France didn't have as much immigration. Before the 70s, they actually turned to more immigration after their economy stagnated, and then you get all these Muslim immigrants in southern France, but that didn't actually happen that much before like 1972 because their economy is growing really well and the elites didn't feel the need for it. And so they didn't have a lot of immigration, but also long-term growth rates, because some economies like the US will tend to have very, very good boom years, but then very bad bust years where they lose ground relative to economies that take the slow and steady approach of growing a little bit every year and actually grow faster in the long run. And France is one of those economies, again, prior to 1972. The economic crisis that the West around that time and the way that Nixon solved it completely screwed over the French. Didn't really solve it, but it allowed them to spend more money in the Vietnam War and made the whole world subsidize the Vietnam War, essentially, because the petrodollar. And then Japan ended up the fastest growing economy in the world in long-term GDP per capita growth rates. But the Soviets were number 2. They were number 2 when France was number 1. They were number 2 when Japan was number 1. They were also the second most equal country on Earth in terms of income equality after Sweden. which was a decently growing social democracy. Social democracy with economy growing at a decent clip. Very successful. Probably the best example of what you can say capitalism can achieve, which is why people talk about like the Nordic model, but it's almost a nostalgia because these days the Nordic countries have stagnating economic growth rates, and the far right is rising in those countries and tearing up the social programs that make them nice places to live. So that's a problem. It may not be too late to push back against it in these countries, and indeed I would love to go to Norway to get out of the US if I could, say, get refugee status there with the rising persecution of the left in the United States. And there are countries that sign on to the UN Convention for the Rights of the Disabled, such that if they give refugee status to a disabled person, they have to allow them access to the disability system. They give their citizens access. And I would, of course, try and become a citizen and learn the language and all that. It's not my fault I was born into a country that's sliding into fascism, which is what the US is doing. It's the only way I'll ever get out of the country, and in fact, the only way I'll likely ever get to like Norway is if my YouTube takes off and I get, money from advertising that's enough to get a self-employment visa, which I'm nowhere near getting. Now we're even getting the point where I can monetize it all. YouTube is crushing my channel, not giving many views. Anyways, France, Japan, of course, horribly mistreated their workers, unlike France, which took very good care of them. Before the end of the Bretton Woods system, social democracies could do very well in terms of economic growth. And France was very much a social democracy with short working days, lots of vacation hours and such. After that, social democracy has a much lower growth rate because of the changes to global economic structure. And as they fell behind their peers, more and more they've torn up those social programs. Someone wrote, the heart is not a perfect organ. Many people have moments of insignificant rhythm changes. For example, PVCs are common name problems of palpitations. Yeah, except it wasn't benign when I had things end up with me in the ER. I was worth discussing. Cardiologist. This is typical. Always downplaying stuff. Hold on. The results certainly weren't far from normal. This is exactly what I predicted. That if I cut down my coffee consumption, meanwhile, now if I cut out all coffee consumption, reduced food and salt, I wouldn't have many normal events. Far more on the one day had a second day of Which monitor where? The fact that I had far more symptoms suggests I can't safely tolerate coffee, which is normal for my age. Let's come out with stuff. Low protein globulin levels. My extreme fatigue. Baseline. All paint a very rosy picture of my health. Despite I'm going to things to protect, improve my health wherever possible. See if they have heart monitor wear. Yeah, they just keep downplaying stuff going on. I don't know how much of that I was kind of muttering when I was responding in a message to a healthcare provider, but they're just going to keep downplaying my symptoms even when I can't safely drink coffee. And I'm in my 30s. I'm way too young for that. It's not like I'm some 80-year-old where you could say, oh, well, you've had many years to be able to drink coffee. At this point, you just have to do away with it. No, I'm in my 30s. I eat healthy. I don't use substances. I go for short walks, which is all I can tolerate with my health issues, with the severe fatigue, what's thought to be long COVID, possibly other issues as well, like pulmonary hypertension. That's not normal. I should be able to go for longer walks. I should be able to drink coffee. I should be able to do intensive exercise. I can't do any of that. This is not normal, and the doctors need to take this more seriously. Just as long COVID needs to be taken more seriously. But isn't being because people don't want to spend the money. They're afraid they'll lose what little they have. I got news for you, folks. Spending money to help the vulnerable will not endanger your position. The ordinary people have already been squeezed as tight as the rich can get away with. They know they can't get away with more without outright revolution or at least enough disorder to start business on their hands. They know that if more money is spent, it has to come from the rich. That's why they oppose it so strongly. Not because they care if the system collapses. They don't, because the billionaires have their bunkers and will be fine if the system collapses. Tax the rich and demand that things like long COVID and infrastructure get proper spending. And in the long run, demand an end to capitalism, because you're never going to have sustainable gains. Anything like this you accomplish will only be temporary gains unless you get rid of capitalism in the long run. Alright, well that's enough for now. This is the end of this video for real. Hope you all enjoyed this. Take care of each other, my viewers. Be kind to yourselves. And may you always find a guiding star to lead you home. Until next time, this is Northstar. Adieu, and best luck to you all.